Hey everyone, I'm really sorry that I'm not there today, but it is a very exciting day for myself and my wife today. My wife Bron, we're going to have a little baby today, which is just an amazing thing. And I know you guys have a double period, and it's an important time, so I didn't want you to miss out and to fall behind. So I prepared this for us so that you can continue to move through the things. This is the part of the syllabus that we're up to, and we've been doing external sources of finance, and we've done debt and equity, we've done ordinary shares, we've done the first three kinds. So I've done new issues, rights issues, share play and share placements. So we just need to do share purchase plans and private equity to finish off this section. So I'm going to put up on the screen the information that you need for that. So the first heading you're going to see, just be aware of where it fits in. Look at share purchase plans. That heading needs to look the same as share placements, rights issues, and new issues. And then there's a new section that's going to be private equity. We had an I for ordinary shares, so this will be a little II for private equity, and you'll see that on the screen. That's just about to come up now. So if you can pause this screen here and write down this information in your books, and that will just finish off that section on sources of finance. So we're back to the syllabus here. We've finished sources of finance. There's two dot points here, financial institutions with a list of them, and influence of government. I've made a sheet. If you came to class on Monday period 1 before the induction, you should have that sheet. If you don't have that sheet, the teacher taking the class should have a copy of it for you. And that information will be all the information you need for those two sections. If you have a question about any of it, let me know. So after those two sections on that sheet, there's one section left, and it's called Global Market Influences. And there's three global influences on the finance part of businesses. So this is a little introduction to that. If you could pause this screen now and write this into your books. The first global influence, so this is your dot point under there. A is economic outlook, and this is just saying that the expectations for what's going to happen in the economy, and because we're talking about global, we're talking about the global economy, is going to have an impact on the decisions that businesses make. So pause this screen here and write this down. We did the influence of the economy back in year 11 when we did MC Pigs Left. This was the E in that, and we drew this diagram to show how economies tend to have cycles of moving up and down. When things are going down, we have like a global decline, and when things are going up, then we have global increases in spending. And those are the two situations we want to be aware of. That if the economy is going well and it's growing, that's going to influence businesses, and it'll have the opposite effect if the global economy is shrinking. I've written that this is optional. If drawing this diagram will help you to remember what the global economic outlook is about, it'll help you to remember what the economy is about, then draw this diagram. If you feel like you know that, you don't need to draw this diagram. If you do want to draw this diagram, just pause the screen now and write this into your books. So now we want to describe what's happening at that in that economic outlook. So if there's a positive economic outlook, if things are going well, then we're going to say that that this could lead to some decisions that businesses make. So the first one here is that there's an opportunity for the business to expand, and if the business is going to expand, which could mean buying new equipment or moving into a bigger premises or even just buying more inputs, they might need to get finance. So they might need to access extra finance in positive economic times. So if you could pause this screen here and write this down. So this screen is just going to have two more effects that impacts that there might be on a business in a time of positive economic growth. So if there's a positive economic outlook, then people will be more willing to invest in businesses because they can see that businesses are making profits, so there's a greater chance of return on their money. So that makes it easier in these times for businesses to access that extra money that they might like. At the same time, financial institutions are more likely to borrow, so you can also get more debt financing during this time because things are going well. The financial institutions are more confident that they'll be able to get their money back. So I'll get you to pause this in a second. Just in the little orange bit down the bottom there is just pointing out that you've just written notes on what happens in a positive economic environment. But if you've got a question on a negative economic environment, you'd also want to be able to answer that. So if you just turn those 3 points around, so the first one on the screen before, you would say in a negative economic time, in a period of global decline, businesses are less likely to want to expand their premises, to grow, to buy new equipment because they have this negative outlook. So they're less likely to want to borrow money. People will be less wanting to invest into businesses, so it'll be more difficult to get equity financing. And financial institutions will also be thinking, well, we're less likely to get our money back on any money that we lend out, so they're less likely to want to give finance as well. So you don't need to write all of those out, but make sure that you could talk about the negative side of what you've just written here. So if you can just pause on the screen and write that bit down. Okay, so A was economic outlook and B is availability of funds, and this just means how easy is it for businesses to get finance. Globalization generally makes things easier. There's more financial institutions all over the world that you can get debt finance from, and there's more people all over the world who are willing to invest into businesses, so you're more easily able to get equity financing. So if you can pause this screen here and write this board down. So this is just finishing off on that section about availability of funds. The first point they're making is that because Australia is a good economy, it's a good place to invest, then the globalisation helps us where we've got lots of people all over the world who will be willing to invest in Australia, and so globalisation has led to an increase in the availability of funds. But we want to point out as well that there can be global events. Generally, what we're going to be saying is that there's more funds available, but there could be global events like the global financial crisis where people start to say, oh, businesses aren't doing so well, we don't want to lend money out, people don't want to invest in businesses, and there can be times, even with globalization, where it's difficult to obtain debt or equity financing. So if you pause the screen here and write down that board. So this is the last of these global factors that we need to look at, and it's interest rates. The first bit there is saying that because we can borrow money from all over the world, businesses can look around for lower interest rates somewhere else in the world, and having a lower interest rate might make it more attractive to borrow money to obtain finance in that way, to do something that the business wants to do. And so that's a global thing to look at. But just the second point there, we want to make sure that that we're aware of that if we're paying back money to people overseas, we have to pay them back in their currency. So if the value of our currency falls, if we have a depreciation of the Australian dollar, we'll actually need more of Australian dollars to pay back the same debt. And so if there's a depreciation, then any benefits that business might have got of a lower interest rate might disappear, and the business might actually end up paying more. That's the last thing that we're going to write. If you can just pause the screen there and write that, but then we have one more thing that we want to just have a look at. So this is everything that we've done. That means we've finished role and influences. I'll be back at school tomorrow and on Friday and a little bit into next week before I go on paternity leave, and we'll be able to get a start on influences. And when I'm away, I'll set up lessons like this to make sure that we're continuing to move through the work that we need to move through to get ready for week 7. Just a couple of things I want you to be aware of. The first one is we talk a lot about the importance of learning definitions. and you need to learn the syllabus and the definitions, and it's time to start learning that now. You need to be able to say everything that's on the screen there without looking at it. And you've been through this process before, it takes time, but you're all capable of doing it. And if you were to spend 15, 20 minutes uh, in the next couple of weeks, or so hopefully this week, it might take you only 15, 20 minutes to learn both of those cards. The first one would happen in a short amount of time. The second one might take you 10, 15 minutes to learn. It might take you a little bit longer. If that's true for you, you need to start earlier. Make sure that you're getting on top of this. Once you know the syllabus, then you actually need to learn definitions. We've spoken about that a lot. And it's not kind of understanding definitions. You have to know exact definitions. If you kind of know what a share placement is, and you kind of know what a share purchase plan is, you probably won't be able to tell me the difference between them. You need to know exactly what these things mean. And just one thing I really want to point out, there's a lot of definitions on here. I actually counted out, there's 32 definitions that you need to learn. And you know that learning definitions is harder than learning the syllabus. So you need to get the syllabus learnt straight away, and then you have to go and start to learn these definitions. So I've got profitability, growth, efficiency, liquidity, solvency. You need to know retained profits, debt, overdrafts, commercial bills, factoring, mortgages, debentures, unsecured notes, leasing, equity, ordinary shares, new issues, rights issues, placements, share purchase plans, private equity. You need to learn definitions of all the financial institutions, which is on that sheet, and then you need to learn the role of ASIC and of company taxation, and then these three global market influences that we've just looked at here. So that's a lot of definition work. The rest of the topic has much less. This is where a lot of the definitions are. So you need to start working now on learning this syllabus and learning those definitions. If you've got time left in this double period, please get started on that if you like. I've also made sure that the teacher who's taken the class has a set of practice questions from past HSC and trial HSC papers just on what's on the screen there. So those questions are just on role and influences of financial management. Like I always say to you, I think it's better if you learn the information first before you go and attempt the questions. And attempting the questions and copying the answer out of your book onto the sheet is not a really useful exercise. So I would recommend that you spend the rest of this time studying, have those sheets to work on at a later stage when you're getting closer to the assessment task. If there's anything that you haven't understood today, anything that you need help with, you can send me an email and I will answer it. But I will be at school for the rest of the week, so I'll be in. We can go through some of this stuff if you're unsure of it. But we'll be also moving onto the financial processes in our next lesson. I hope that you'll have a great rest of today, and I'll see you all later in the week.